welcome, and on behalf of the Philly Ad Club Programming Committee, I'm Lynn Kremer, Revenue Officer at One Day University. Tonight's program is one of the Philly Ad Club's signature events, and it's actually one of my personal favorites. And that's because of our esteemed honorees, our 2019 Women in Advertising. So let me do a quick introduction to you, so you'll know who all of them are. And we'll start with Cari Feiler Bender, Relief Communications. Sitting next to Cari is Kristan Davis with Thomas Jefferson University and Jefferson Health. We have Michelle Kinsman, Digitas Health. Don Mosley, Delaware State University. Woon, Rani, formerly Campbell Soup. Did somebody go with it? I'm missing all that fun stuff. And our moderator is Aunyéa Lachelle, 6ABC, who you'll be hearing from shortly. She has her own fan club. Great. So for those of you who are posting during this event, we encourage that you do so by using our hashtag, which is hashtag Philly Ad Club. So again, that's hashtag Philly Ad Club. And we encourage you to tweet. The Twitter handles are on your seats, that little slip sheet in front of you, so if you can take advantage of that, that would be great. Now, before we begin this evening's program, I do want to point out some few facts. First, it's not too late in the year for a New Year's resolution, so I'm asking all of you to consider making one to yourselves, and that's to become a Philly Ad Club mentor. It doesn't take a lot of your time, and you'll be giving back, just like someone did for you when you received valuable career advice in the beginning of your career. So to do so, sign up at phillyadclub.com. We need career types of all sorts to be mentors. We have quite a waiting list of mentees, so please make that New Year's resolution and act on it. I also want to recognize our 2019 annual sponsors, and you see them up on our signage. I do want to mention them by name and thank them for their generosity and long-term commitment to the Philly Ad Club. First is our 2019 title sponsor for the 9th year in a row, and that's PHL 17. They are Woon. They are proud to serve as the Philadelphia region, along with their classic sitcom station, Antenna TV, classic movie channel This TV, and Weather.com. In their 4th year as corporate sponsors are Aloysius Butler and Clark. I'm waiting for a Lulu from them. Nice job. Full service agency that uses creative intelligence to connect research, creative, and technology to move people. Their 2nd year in a row as corporate sponsor is the Brownstein Group, the longest running independent marketing communications agency in Philadelphia. And also for their 2nd year as a corporate sponsor is Outfront Media, focusing on being the best in class of outdoor advertising. New for 2019 as a corporate sponsor is the Inquirer Solutions Group, offering the power of Inquirer premium audiences through print, digital, and experiential platforms. Also want to say a big thank you to our annual event sponsors for 2019, and they are Velasas Digital, back for their 5th year. Lamar Advertising, a dedicated sponsor for the past 6 years. For their 3rd year in a row, Radio 1, represented here by WRNB 100.3. Calcium Brand Nourishment for their 2nd year, thank you. And the Creative Group, a dedicated sponsor for the past 8 years. And for their 1st year, Deltec Software Solutions and Clutch Creative Talent. We extend our gratitude to these sponsors for their dedication in helping make the Philadelphia Ad Club one of the most vibrant trade associations in the greater Philadelphia region, as well as the largest AAF affiliated ad club in the country. So that's a big accomplishment. Also want to thank and recognize the Philadelphia Public Relations Association, or PPRA, for partnering with us for the 2019 Women in Advertising event. So before we move into our program, please meet Jen Lassen. She has a message for our younger professionals. Come on up, Jen. Here tonight about the opportunities for our 2.0 group. Oh, you're bringing a committee. Bring it out of the way. There we go.
It is Women in Advertising after all now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jen, along with Victoria, Tony, and Allison. We're here from Philly Ad Club 2.0. As we're a month into the new year, there's no better time than now to inspire your young leaders at all of your companies to get more involved with the Philly Ad Club. And what better way to do that than to join Philly Ad Club 2.0? We're a networking group for advertising and communication professionals in their early to mid careers working in the greater Philadelphia area. And just some of the benefits of joining 2.0 include that we're an engaging, group of young professionals with varying levels of knowledge and background in the industry. So again, networking for young professionals, all different backgrounds, creative, advertising, media, you name it. We're host free networking and philanthropic events throughout the year. FREE for young members, so that's pretty awesome. All of our events are free, and with the support of the Ad Club, we make them easily available and accessible for young members. It's also a great way for young members starting out in their careers to learn more about timely and industry-related topics through panels and other educational events. That's something we strive to do, is to inform people starting out in their careers. And it's also just a fun way to socialize and network and make new business connections in some casual settings. We host networking nights and different socials for folks to get to know each other and learn about different jobs in the industry. So we'll all be in the lobby along with some of our other members after the event. If anyone has questions about whether you're looking to get involved with Ad Club 2.0 or more information for your members. So we'd love to chat with you all. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Jen. That sounds like a lot of fun and very beneficial. So now we're going to get started with our 5th annual Women in Advertising event. And I ask that you say hello to our moderator. So let me tell you a little bit about Aunyéa Lachelle, who is 6ABC's digital entertainment reporter and producer for 6ABC. She hosts a live web chat series and Facebook content, along with programming and editing segments within the programming department. Aunyéa also serves as a brand ambassador for Burlington stores, hosting content for their social media platforms. And she has a YouTube series, which I took a peek at, where she gives hilarious and insightful commentary on trending topics. She's got tons of great energy, so we're all in for a treat. Please welcome Aunyéa.
How are you? How are you guys doing this evening? Excellent. Are you guys enjoying yourself? Okay, so as a group of people who are here to be inspired, you are not inspiring me right now with that response. Are you enjoying yourself? There we go. There we go. Thank you, Lynn, for the wonderful introduction. I am so excited to be your moderator this evening. As you know, we have an esteemed panel ready to inspire you, motivate you, and also we hope that you have tons of questions to ask them while they are here so you can pick their brains. Before we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit more about myself. As Lynn said, I am a digital entertainment reporter and producer with Channel 6. I've been there for 3.5 years now. I actually started my journey there as an intern and was hired right after my internship as a community affairs coordinator and producer. And last January, I pitched and created a digital series called 6ABC Entertainment Now, and I served as the host and producer, writer, and editor of that series. But as you know, women, we wear a lot of hats and we do it well, right? There we go, there we go. So again, I want to introduce you guys to this amazing panel. You are going to be mind blown. I had the pleasure of meeting some of them, had the pleasure of already knowing some of them, and so I can't wait to get this night started. So with that being said, our first woman in advertising to be recognized is Cari Feiler Bender. Yeah, there we go. Give her a hand clap. She is the president of Relief Communications, and Cari has proven her versatility and ability to accomplish the best within any budget, and working in advertising, we know how important that is, right? While developing and maintaining a constituency through public relations, Cari designs and executes every project. Through her work with numerous not-for-profits as staff, volunteer, and consultant, Cari has a unique perspective. Her past positions include directing public relations, marketing, and events for Millennium Philadelphia, Welcome America, Women's Way, and the Philadelphia Theater Company. So without further ado, let's give Cari another warm welcome while she tells us a little bit about herself.
I'm one of those people Aunyéa knew. So great.
My name doesn't want to stay up.
I'm Cari Feiler Bender, and I do not like to color inside the lines. I figured you could get to know me tonight by hearing about what it takes to run your business and do it with passion. So I'm going to start with a little story. A year ago, I faced the biggest professional hurdle I have ever had in my career, giving a TEDx talk. When you give a TED talk, there's always a round red carpet on the floor, and you have to stay on the red carpet. There are all kinds of rules. If you step off to get a drink, they'll edit that out of the video, but if you mess up and you're still on the carpet, whatever you say is on the video. But let me back up a minute. I often talk about how I developed a toolbox over my career that allowed me to succeed in my career as a publicist for nonprofit organizations. I'm on the dark side over here. I do PR, not advertising. So hopefully you'll like me anyway and what I have to say. So my toolbox started, I grew up doing a lot of theater. So I learned to stand up, project my voice, have poise, and when things inevitably go wrong, as they often do, the show must go on. I was an English major across town at Penn, even though I grew up in Georgia. I came here to Philadelphia to go to Penn and learned how to analyze, write. We all have to write, right? No matter what the career. My kid who's studying computer science in college, he's still got to learn how to write, right? Grammar, all of those important things. I'm a photographer by hobby, so I know that when a reporter who is a photographer of any kind, what they want to see through the lens needs to tell a story. So I understand the fact that a visual story is just as important. And I did for a couple of years out of college, I did event planning. So I became a fanatic about details and understood show flow. How is it going to move and keep an audience's interest? And finally, I'm a natural connector. Lynn Kremer, I'm surprised you didn't embarrass me tonight, but Lynn and I go way back. She was my childhood librarian in Savannah, Georgia, and we have connected as adults here in Philadelphia. So it's, right, isn't that crazy? But as a natural connector, I love spending time with people, developing relationships, and I have a desire to provide good customer service, which public relations, I think, is half customer service. As I often say, my favorite part about what I do is I connect the stories to the storytellers. I worked directly for nonprofits for several years out of school, and then got to help promote big citywide tourism events, as Aunyéa said, Millennium Philadelphia, the city's celebration of July 4th. And when that ended in 2001, I decided to go out on my own and focus my public relations and communication services on the nonprofit sector, because I wanted to be passionate about what I do. No offense to those great professionals out there who do PR for banks or vacuum cleaners or whatever, but I am lucky that I get to wake up every day and be excited about what I do. And ultimately, I'm going to do a better job telling my story to a reporter and getting him or her interested if I'm excited and I can get them excited, if I care deeply about it. And I have gotten to do some amazing, wacky, and meaningful things in my career. 2,000 people dressed as Rocky, running up the art museum steps to bring in the new year. That was fun. This Jewish girl got to be on the stage with the Pope when he was in Philadelphia to present a mural commemorating his visit. Crazy! Once a year, I get to be alone in Franklin Square with these 2,000 giant lighted handmade sculptures with just me and a photographer for the Philadelphia Chinese Lantern Festival. And I get to work with teams of people who every day commit themselves to working with people with opioid use disorder or those with HIV getting emergency assistance, and that work is meaningful and important to me. But that TED Talk was the most difficult thing I have ever done. It wasn't about performing. I've done plenty of theater. It wasn't about picking the stories. I can tell stories till the cows come home. It was about memorizing a 14-minute speech and staying on the red carpet. I'm not so good about staying in the lines by nature. I'm innovative, I'm inquisitive. Lord knows I'm opinionated. As recently as the day before, I still didn't have that whole speech down. Then I finally got a chance to rehearse on the actual red carpet, which was way smaller than the one I rehearsed in my home basement. So this was going to be harder than I thought. Then the time came, and my teenage children were sitting in the second row, and I said to myself, I want them to see that I have climbed a mountain and made it to the top. And I delivered the final line of my speech right to them. And while I didn't step off the carpet, I did step out of my comfort zone, and it was worth it.
Wow. When I told you guys we had a great panel, I was not lying. Thank you, Cari, for kicking that off. Our next woman that we would like to recognize is Kristan Davis. Kristan is the Director of Digital Learning and Education Technology at Thomas Jefferson University and Jefferson Health. Kristan, yes, give it up. Kristan is the first female director in Jefferson's Digital Innovation and Consumer Experience Group. Yeah, another round of applause for that one. I mean, that is incredible. She leads a large, diversely skilled team of instructional designers, learning management system administrators, system trainers, technical writers, and copywriters, all focused on providing frictionless consumer experiences. She led her team to convert in-person electronic health record system training to predominantly online learning environment, reducing physician training time by 70% and saving the organization, you guys ready? $3 million. Let's give Kristan a warm welcome as she tells us about herself.
Good evening, everybody. I'm, of course, Kristan Davis. My title, which you've already heard, Director of Digital Learning and Education Technology at Jefferson. Right now, we are currently about 33,000 employees, 14 hospitals, and when you think about the people that we serve with our education, we serve everyone from doctors to nurses to IT to HR to waste management to security. So everything that we do is extremely analogous to the general population. Also, something that you guys might find interesting from my background is I spent 10 plus years working for a marketing research firm before I came to Jefferson. And while I was there, I was responsible for making sure that all of the field interviewers that collected market research data were trained. I was also part of the USA Touchpoints study, which was the first study in the United States to use mobile technology to collect participant information. So I really have three things. Tough act to follow. That was a great speech. So I have three things that I would say are the keys that have been to my success, the keys to the guidelines that I've followed as I've gone through my career and that I even follow today. And the first one is to maintain an inquisitive mindset, to oscillate, to also always know where you're going next. So the first one, as far as being inquisitive, I'm sure everybody knows who Curious George is, right? My son, who's 3 years old, is obsessed with Curious George right now, so that's my world. That's what I watch every single day. And as Curious George, as you guys know, as he gets into things, he always causes trouble. He goes on adventures. He pokes his nose into places that he shouldn't really poke his nose into. And ironically, when I was little, my mother always called me Curious George. She called me Curious George because I was the same way. I'm the tinkerer. I'm the one that asks why, that annoying kid. And I'm also the kid that breaks everything so that I can figure out exactly how it worked. And working in a field where things are constantly moving, I found that that has served me extremely well. So I encourage everybody, first of all, to be your own version of Curious George. So much of the learning that we do is informal learning, and we learn it day to day, and so it's so important that we keep digging in and we keep learning and we keep pushing. And even if you aren't the tinkerer, you can do things like the podcast, the books, talk to people that you know, but the key is that you never stop learning. Oscillate, which is the second one, which is a medical term. Of course, I had to throw that in there. But as far as oscillate, we need to make sure that we listen to the heart of the people that we are serving. And so listen, and listening isn't just what we hear. Listening is also, of course, what we see, what we observe. So I encourage everybody, as you go, one of the things that I've always done, and I encourage my team to do here, is we always observe, we always go out and we meet people, we watch people that we haven't necessarily gotten to see, gotten to know. And when we go out and we observe them, we get to see things that you might not ever see, you might not ever hear them say. So, and as women, specifically, women and men, so this is a women and men's event, but I would say as women, we have a strength in that we are socialized to be nurturers and to be comforters and to be empathetic. So women here, to harness that and know that when we use that, we can always figure out what people's needs are. And when you know what someone's needs are and you do it, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna win every single time. And the last one is always know where you're going and act for where you are. We're extremely visual people, as you know, so if someone can envision you there, then they're more willing to place you there. So always do that. Always act for the role that you're going to be in, not for the role that you are. And that way we don't spend our time meandering about, we don't spend our time doing things that aren't going to be helpful for us. So hopefully that's helpful to you guys, but always be inquisitive, oscillate, listen to the heart, and lastly, always act for where you're going and know where you're going. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristan. You were dropping gems already, and I didn't even ask a question yet. That was great. No, that was great. That's what we like to hear. The next woman that we would like to recognize is Michelle Kinsman. And I must say, I had the pleasure of moderating Michelle's book tour last year, so I'm really excited to hear her speak here again today. Michelle is the Senior Vice President, Executive Director of Production and Operations at Digitas Health, and she is also the author of Real World Feminist Handbook, which you guys need to get a copy of. It's really, really good. Michelle serves as the head of production and operations for Digitas Health in North America, a true producer at heart. She is the chief architect and champion of a world-class project management capability designed to work seamlessly across channels. She is also the author, as I mentioned, of the Real World Feminist Handbook, practical advice on how to, and I quote, how to find, win, and kick ass at your first job. So without further ado, let's welcome Michelle.
Hi. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say at the start of this, I thought, what if I could only get across one point this whole night? Why don't you use that intro speech for that one point? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my career path. And I think you're going to quickly catch on to the one point I'm trying to make. So I had a film degree. I was very driven. I wanted to become a video producer. I was willing to do whatever I needed to do to get myself in the door. So I took an administrative assistant job at a small ad shop here, formerly known as MBC, Medical Broadcasting Company, RIP. Now, something else. So I got that job, and I was working with a number of people who were producing all kinds of great things. And I was really focused on how am I going to become a member of that video department. So I saw different ways that I can contribute. And then I asked for additional responsibility, and I was given it. Eventually, the people that I really kind of took me under their wing was running an infomercial series back in the day. And I was so into it. I just really wanted to help this team. I wanted this whole project come to life. I was very passionate about it. And I thought, what are some ways that I could make a difference here? And I could stand out and become like a real member of the video team. And so I thought of those ways. I proposed some ideas to my boss, and I asked to do those things. And then I became a member of that team. Eventually, I became a video producer. I enjoyed it. But it was the early 2000s, and we all know that there's this little thing called the internet that was starting to blow up. And our company was one of the first to really kind of go after that space. And I saw the direction of the business. I saw that the digital work was becoming more and more prominent, and I didn't know a damn thing about it. I decided I needed to know something about it. So I put together a proposal, and I went to my boss, and I said, I would like to shadow with a project manager in the digital team and learn how to do digital work. She said yes. I became a digital project manager. Once I became a digital project manager, I noticed that there were a lot of junior talent that didn't really have a career direction, didn't really have a clear job description, and certainly didn't have a manager looking out for them. I thought, maybe this team could be a team of associate project managers. I think this company can benefit from associate project managers. So I put together a proposal. I went to my boss. I told her what I thought this could do for the company and that I wanted to run the team. And then I ran the team. As I gained additional responsibility in the digital space, I saw that they were recruiting for a director of project management on one of our biggest clients. There was a dude who was pretty much thinking that it was going to be his job. I went to my boss, and I threw my hat in the ring. I interviewed, and spoiler alert, I got the job. I did pretty well, gained additional responsibility over time. My boss gave notice. I thought, am I going to wait for a boss, or am I going to become that person? I had ideas about where this department can go. So I put together my ideas. I put together a business plan. I sat down with the CEO and my boss at the time, and I asked for that job. I got it. I could keep going because just about every new responsibility or challenge that I have taken on in my career, I have asked for. And so if you're sitting there wondering, why aren't they noticing me? I have great ideas. Don't trust that someone is going to connect the dots on your behalf. Put together your ideas, put some business thought behind it, and ask for it.
Wow. Yeah, drop the mic for that one. That was drop mic worthy. Give it up for Michelle, you guys. Wow. True inspiration.
I'm at the break dance,
she's getting
man.
ready. She's getting ready. Tough acts to follow. But the next woman that we would like to recognize is Dawn Mosley. She is the Executive Director of Marketing and Communications at Delaware State University. Dawn has over 25 years of generating and managing digital content that influences.
I was 2.
He doesn't look a day over 25.
That's right. That's right. Avon.
But over 25 years of generating and managing digital content that influences consumers through diverse media platforms. She is also the owner of I Am Film Works, a film production and marketing company, as well as founder and executive director of Productions for Purpose, a nonprofit that creates films, documentaries, commercials, and other visual content for nonprofit organizations. And I'm not done. She is currently completing her doctoral degree in educational leadership. I mean, when I told you guys this was an esteemed panel, I mean, I was not lying. Many hats here. So let's give it up for Dawn and learn more about her.
Thank you. I just want to say I wish my last name was Zimmerman right about now. I'll have to follow that up. Thank you for having me. I'm enjoying this. I'm just sitting here like, really? Wow. I want to be sitting in that crowd. I was sitting here thinking about what could I say that would be so powerful and inspiring. And I'm just listening to the stories for all these wonderful women. And I look back and I think about the career that I've had and where I am today. And I said, my gosh, I've sold everything, you know? I've sold shoes. I sold dolls and jewelry and advertising. Yes, I did, and print and radio. And I've sold my kids that vitamins are really good for you and you should take them. You know, I've just been selling everything. I said, well, I haven't sold cars. And I'm like, actually, I did. I sold that old beat up car for like $100. That's sales, right? And it's like this whole thing is sales. And in marketing, we actually know what we're doing here, don't we? Why do we know what we're doing? Because we've probably lived it. And in each of you, you're bringing something to the table. So I thought, well, I really don't need to share anything with you so much about me, but you know, I think that I want to just try to tap into something that you already know. And I'm confident that you're here because you clearly enjoy what you do. Do you like what you do? I mean, I'm just saying. We're here. So, you know, what do we find exciting about it is that it has creativity. You know, it's ever changing, correct? We've got social media that's just this amazing thing that just constantly changes. It's this moving target. But now we get to combine our knowledge, our life, our experience, and make it into something that can help sell something, whether it be a brand or a product or a service. So in my eyes, I'm just saying it's not really hard. We just have to constantly look for the next big thing that could potentially change the way the consumer sees it. Because if you're already in a position that you're working for a company, you know the product already, but do you actually know what the customer sees in that product? And I'm finding now that I've kind of been in sales for so long and now it's kind of turned into marketing that I think sometimes we kind of have to take a step back and say, well, what would the consumer say? As much as I think I know, what would the consumer say? Like, I keep 20-year-olds around me. Not that I'm not 20-something myself. She was lying about that 25 years, I'm trying to tell you. Nobody's counting. But in my environment in higher ed, I thought this was going to be such a shift for me, coming from radio and coming from print ads and coming from film and all these different aspects. But at the end of the day, it was the same thing. You're selling something that somebody probably needs, and if they don't need it, you're trying to sell to them why you need this great and fantastic thing, whatever that is. And that's the beauty of what we do. We're telling a story, right? We're telling the why to what you need and how I'm going to get it to you and provide this service or product to you. But the fun part about what we can do is that it changes every single day. And I see you smiling because you know that makes this interesting. So as women in this environment, I think that not only are you going to be leaders in what you do and what you sell, but you also have to push a little further and think about your end users, the way that they look at that product, and not think to yourself, well, I've been working here for 20 years, I've been working here for 5 years, I know this product and I know it well. Sometimes you got to take a step back and say, well, how do they see this? Maybe I need to, be the listener at this stage. And hopefully, through your experiences and places that you work, I don't care if it was Burger King, you've learned something. My first job was McDonald's. I don't know about you guys, but it was McDonald's. I was killing and selling those fries. Upsell, I sold fries. You gotta upsell those fries. You gotta upsell. Get the yogurt, get the parfait, get everything. Supersize, that's right. But I can take that experience and I can tie it right back into what you do today. I can tie it into what I do today, and you can tie it into what you've done in the past. How many of you is in your first-time job experience in advertising and marketing? So, okay, and probably the most challenging is trying to come up with something new and innovative, right? If I could give you the best advice that I've learned over these years, these wonderful 20-something years, is that in innovation, you have to have a plan. Your great ideas can die at that table. And because you didn't have that plan to execute it and you didn't ask the right questions, then it looked like it was just kind of a, overnight plan. Nobody really thought that it was going to move anywhere. But just do your homework, do your research, and ask the right questions. And don't be afraid to be wrong. It's okay. If nothing else, I always felt a little intimidated sometimes in the room when I, step into a new environment. But I just encourage you to continue to be innovative, but also be willing to ask the right questions and be okay if it needs a little tweaking, if you're new in this environment, because it's going to change no matter how hard you try to keep it to fit into that box. It's going to turn out to be a circle. It's going to turn out to be a different everything. But you learn from that experience. And I came up with this acronym, and thought it was going to make sense till I got up here and heard all these amazing stories and wearing all this bright red. I was like, this is kind of cool. I got a white chair and a black outfit. I'm doing it, right? No. I missed the red memo, you guys. But I thought about this acronym, and I hope that, when I thought about what do we have to do, we have to push. We have to push our ideas. We have to push ourselves to think outside of the things we've done before. And in that push, just knowing your product. And I was thinking of what was innovative about, the you and understanding what the purpose of that product is for. And the S was who you're providing this service to. See, I couldn't put the S in the front of it, so I had to put it in the backhand. So who is the service? Who are you providing this service to? And the H was how well did your campaign or did your product do? And then you kind of circle back and evaluate, did it work? If it didn't work, what are the changes that I need to make so that it can work? But don't give up on that innovative idea. Don't give up on that opportunity to bring something new to the market, because you're going to keep pushing, right? And once you have babies, you'll keep pushing. No, just kidding. I know, right? And if you're laughing, it's true. It's true. You had to push. See, it's women in advertising. We push. But truthfully, in pushing for not only your product and your ideas and being innovative in your own space, push and being who you are too. And what you bring to the table, whether, like I said, if it was your first job, second job, third job, what you do on the weekends, part-time job, bring it to the table and push the envelope every single day, and be willing to bring the idea with a plan, write the proposal, ask for it, but also don't be afraid to push. Because if you don't, somebody else will, I promise you. I found that the one that you say, I had that idea, because I did have that idea. The little thing on the phone in the back, you put your, I know I had it. I'm waiting for that check. It hasn't come in yet. But if you don't push for that, somebody else is going to do it. And I promise you, you have the talent in you. You wouldn't be here if you didn't want to improve on who you are and to connect with the right people. But you're going to have to push harder than the next person, I promise you. Because we're some pretty, bad chicks up here. We are, and all of you out there are as well. But what makes us great in who we are is because we've taken our past experiences all the way down the road, and I know she's going to say the same thing, is our past experiences, how we got here. But don't be afraid of it, because it's going to help you push in the future. Push, 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 push down. I told you it was going to be fun tonight. So in my wonderful drive here from, far, far Delaware to get here, and Delaware? What? Yeah, population 200. I will just say this, and then I'll stop joking, but no, I won't. That, if you're going to do this, please just be great at it, but don't be afraid. And push the envelope, like I said, but also push yourself. Come to these events. Ask questions. Like I said, I keep 20-year-olds around me. Why? Because as much as I know about social media, I'm not 20 anymore. And they're like, Dawn, that is so not going to work. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm okay with that. So should we do it? Like, no, don't do it. And you know what? My feelings don't even get hurt. I'm fine. I'm not hurt anymore. Why? Because I'm okay with learning through the process. And if I'm going to give someone an idea, please don't let me go out there and embarrass myself. Let this 20-something, 21-year-old student come up to me and say, we're going to try something new. Why? Because I'm trying to push for something new also. But I'm okay with getting good advice. Or if I'm working with someone with our higher education, and we have some of our students that are 75, 85, I'm not there yet. I do plan to get there, but I will ask someone in that age group. Or I'll ask someone that's 17, just graduating from high school. Why? Because I'm asking, because I want to know. I don't know it all, and I don't want to come off like I know it all. Why wouldn't I ask that question? If I'm going to push, I'm going to do my research. What y'all going to do, push? Push with me, push, push. See, he did it. Push. Okay. No, but I'm here for any questions that you may have, and I think that you guys are in the right place, and I just thank you for having us up here today. Thank you.
Yes, give it up for Dawn. So much insight for a 25-year-old. Oh, my goodness. And last but certainly not least, we have Woon Rani. She is the former Vice President and Chief Consumer Experience Officer at Campbell's Soup. Good. See what I did there? You like that? Yin has over 20 years of experience spanning creative, media.
I started in grade school, just for the record.
Look at this panel, young and talented, right? Spanning from creative, media, and brand leadership roles. She helped build Campbell's communications and led their marketing plans for their core businesses, including Campbell's, Swanson, SpaghettiOs. Oh my goodness, I love SpaghettiOs. Sorry guys, back to the program. V8 and Prego. She helped launch the Made for Real Life campaign, which showcased a range of American families and received national attention for its inclusiveness. She has worked on core brands and new launches for a range of Fortune 500 clients, including P&G, GSK, Hasbro, L'Oreal, Charles Schwab, and others. So without further ado, please welcome Yin.
Thank you so much. Firstly, I want to say thank you to the Philly Ad Club. Thank you to my amazing panelists. What a great experience I'm having just listening to you. And thank you to all of you coming out in this frigid weather. When I got on the train, I said to my husband, I could be talking to nobody. I don't really know. So your commitment is epic. Thank you so much for being here. Very impressive. I'm going to have to take a picture of all of you for my husband as evidence that I wasn't talking to the empty room. So. This has been really amazing, and I'm going to share a little bit about my career, but maybe I'll also try to summarize a little bit of what we heard here. As you heard in my bio, I've been lucky to sit at different parts of this ecosystem. I grew up at a creative agency, I ran a media agency, and I most recently was at Campbell's Soup. I've been taking some time off, part-time consulting, part-time traveling, full-time momming. Momming is my new verb. So, and it's been a blast. Yes, momming is my real job, I think. And boy, pushing is involved. Pushing is certainly involved. And I've been really fortunate. This industry has been very good to me. I'm a dilettante that fell into the right business at the right time. But I wanted to summarize some of the things that have been important to me and some of the things we've already heard from others tonight. And so the 4 key things I want to talk about are learning, excellence, people, and self. So learning has already been such a theme here. And, in the Gallup Strength Finders, those of you who know the Gallup methodology, they rank you on sort of 34 attributes. And learner happens to be my number 1 attribute. I'm also from Singapore, so I was saying earlier to the panelists in Singapore, the only thing they teach you to do is be a student. So if I could be a professional student, I would be awesome. But no one pays you to study, apparently. You have to pay to go to school? Can you fix that for me, Don? I want someone to pay me to go to school. But fortunately, in marketing, that is actually really useful. And we heard about the sense of curiosity, particularly with the digital revolution that has shaped my whole career of 20-something years, apparently. I mean, it's never the same. It's never the same. Lots of fundamentals stay the same, but literally, I always laugh at work. I'm like, don't look away, because you can look away for a week, and suddenly Facebook went from being organic to paid. Who knew? The algorithm twitched, and Google suddenly, your SEO is all messed up. And so you have to love learning, and you have to embrace it, because I plan to learn for the rest of my career. And if you don't enjoy and embrace that, marketing is a really tough road. If you want to have the physics formulas just stamped out by a professor 10 years ago and be the same today, it's just not how it works. So if you love to learn, this is a great, great business to be in. If not, you might want to consider a different road. The second big theme, I guess, is this notion of excellence. A long time ago at this New York agency I worked at, my president took all the young assistant account executives into a room and taught us the 10 things he thought you needed to succeed in advertising. And all these years later, I can only remember one. So he said, whatever you do, always add value. Make it special. Go that extra mile. Being excellent makes a difference, and you know it. You see it in your teams, you see it in your clients, you see it in your projects. You know when someone has pushed harder, done better, and really strive for that excellence, and hold yourself to a higher standard. I mean, I'm very proud of the Real Life campaign that she referred to earlier. I'm very proud of our partners at BBDO, which is a very famous New York agency.
And even when it launched, and it was very impactful in its own way. And I sent a note to the president of the agency, who was well known in the business, and I said, John, objectively, like, what do you think that is on a scale of 10? I'm from Singapore, so I like being graded. I said, what do you think that is on a scale of 1 to 10? And he's like, at least an 8 or 9. And I said, I think it's kind of like a 6 objectively. And he was like, God, you're a really tough grader. And he said, well, for CPG, consumer packaged goods, that's pretty good. I said, there's no CPG discount. People don't sit at home and say, oh, it's pretty good for CPG. I said, I'm competing against Nike and Tesla and all these amazing cultural icons. So once you lose sight of what excellence is, you can't strive for it. So it's been so exciting to hear from all the people on this panel of how pushing for being the very best that you can be and pushing your teams and having high expectations is super important. And only you can determine what those expectations are. Don't settle for that lowest common denominator, because it'll never be good enough. It's a really competitive world we're in today. Switching more to the rational side of the argument, the third big thing I think we've heard a lot about today is people. I mean, this is a people business. Let no one kid you. No matter how much capital and plans and investment you have, people make all the difference in the world. I mean, I've been involved in a lot of quote-unquote turnaround stories. I never get called when everything's hunky-dory for some reason. They're like, oh, that's broken, send Yin in. I'm like, great. And honestly, with the same assets and the same brand and the same factories and the same everything, the people, when they come together, they can do amazing things. So think a lot about, one, who are the people you surround yourself with in your career, and also try to be the kind of person that people want to be with. That you know them, right? People who get called on special projects, people you want to spend time with. People is the differentiator in business today, and being the right kind of person is a differentiator in your own career. Nothing happens without people, no matter, even if you're building a 747 and there's tons of engineering parts everywhere, people make that difference. And I think people who stay in our business all know that. And having run agencies and large teams, it is true in agency life. You always say, the only asset I have goes up and down in the elevators every day. So treasure that asset, nurture them, and be the kind of person that contributes to that journey. And then the last one, which is really still a work in progress, I think, for all of us, no matter where we are in our career, is how important it is to have a sense of self. Who are you? What is your purpose? And as I always say at work, what is your superpower? Everybody has a superpower. Find out what that is and do your job in a way that taps into your superpower. The Gallup Strength Fighter thing talks a lot about don't spend your whole life worried about your weaknesses. In fact, I've forgotten my strength fighters, the bottom 5 things that I'm bad at. I don't know what they are. I don't plan to work on them. I'm just going to ignore them. I've been bad at the same things pretty much my whole career. I've learned to work around them. But my top 5, I know what they are. I use them every day to succeed. And sometimes, especially if you're a diverse professional, yourself is very different than the norm, than the expectation. I mean, despite a 20-plus year career in advertising, I don't drink. I don't know anything about sports. I'm actually an introvert in Myers-Briggs. I should not have a career, frankly, based on the normal expectations. But here I am, folks. But here I am. So spend time, make a commitment to yourself of both shaping who that self is, embracing yourself, and finding your way to the end point in your own way. And I always tell this story when I ran my first big pitch for the Smucker's business in my late 20s. It was the first time I was really, really in charge of it. And we were going to the dress rehearsal with the managing partner and this sort of great creative director whom I loved a lot. And so we're going to the rehearsal, and then we go up through it all, and at the very end he says, you're doing a really good job. He said, but don't be so funny. Don't be so funny. He said, the Smucker's clients are very conservative. They don't get funny. And I'm like, wait, that's my whole shtick. I can't, what do you mean don't be funny? I've been rehearsing this for days, and that's just how I talk. And so I spent all night just panicked of how do I present this whole thing and orchestrate this whole room, my first big pitch, and don't be funny. But I was blessed by the managing partner, who was a longtime mentor, a longtime boss. The morning we came in, she looked at me and she said, you know what Robert told you? Forget it. Just be yourself. They're going to like you for who you are or not. And if they don't like you, we're never going to win the business. You're never going to be able to run this business. Just be funny. And I remember that message for so long. And so whatever it is your superpower, find yourself, hold on to it, and embrace it. And so I think everyone on this panel has done that. I encourage all of you to do that. And again, thank you so much for being here on a cold, frigid day.
Wasn't that just incredible? I mean, I feel like we don't even have to ask questions at this point now. No, you guys, that was amazing. Thank you again to our speakers for that insight. And just want to kick things off. Working at 6ABC, I'm a journalist and a storyteller at heart. And everyone's story has to start somewhere. And so I want for you guys to describe what was your start like in your field, and was it particularly easier or harder than your counterparts? What was your start that got you to where you are today?
I guess we're starting alphabetically again. So I, as I mentioned, I went to the University of Pennsylvania, and came up here from Georgia, was an English major. There's a money-making major. And I did a lot of theater, was not good enough to head on Broadway, which was, of course, my childhood dream. So now what am I going to do? So I would say I thought I maybe wanted to do international relations. I went and moved to Washington, D.C. I worked for an international nonprofit. I then promptly got laid off 4 months later in the recession of 1990. And then did event planning. Then I met my husband. We moved here. And I grew up doing theater, as I mentioned. And my brother-in-law, my husband's sister's husband, did you follow that? Ran a New York Broadway theater. And he said to me, "You should work in theater." And I was like, "Oh my God, people get paid to do that?" So he helped me connect. It is all about the networking. You will never get a job applying online as much as you will get by networking. That's why you're all here, right? You all get that, right? But so I went to a meeting, and this was before jobs were listed on the computer. The Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance had a newspaper, and I sat down in this theater director's office, and he said, "Let's see what jobs are open." And Philadelphia Theater Company had a job opening for a public relations and promotions junior position. And I was like, that sounds cool. And networked my way, got my first job. So I got to promote theater. So here's something. I didn't know anything about PR. I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't know anything about communications, but I sure loved theater. And so you heard me talk about passion. I started with the passion. And I didn't mind going to late night rehearsals. I didn't mind reading a script or 100 of them. And so that's where I started. I started with the passion, and then was able to build the skill set because I had someone, a senior person, who was willing to say, "Here's how you write a press release, and here's how you build a relationship." And back in the day, when the Philadelphia Inquirer actually employed 2 full-time theater critics, not anymore. I developed relationships. I said, okay, I'm going to go out to lunch with you, and I'm going to learn that you like theater that goes linearly, and you like theater that thinks outside the box, so I know which story to pitch to which person, and that's how I learned the job. So it was taking the time and starting with the emotion of it, and starting with, oh, the script is amazing, you're going to like it. Oh, wait, you're not going to like it, you're going to like it. So that's where I started my career.
So I feel very similar to you that I should not be here or have a job because my bachelor's degree is in criminal justice. So that's where I started out. And when as I was going through my degree, I got into the research field. And that's where I found my passion. And so I'm the numbers person. My team's here, they know I always say, prove it. How do we show what we're doing? And that's because that's my core. So I started out in research, and while I was going through my criminal justice degree, I also happened upon somebody that I went to this speech, and this woman was talking about cultural diversity. Again, it has nothing to do with it, but I felt so moved by what she was talking about. I thought, I want to be able to get in front of a group of people one day and be able to motivate them and be able to inspire them and to be able to help them. And so I went back to school, and I ended up getting a master's in adult and organizational development, or in education, and that's how I got into what I'm doing now. So then I took the research, I took the education, I found this market research firm that was going to give me a chance, And I just excelled through there because, again, I kept going with the theme. I kept with the curiosity. I kept pushing. I kept going into their office and saying, I have a proposal. And I kept saying, you got to give me a chance to do this. I have ideas for this. I have ideas for this. And they kept giving me opportunities as I proved myself, as I worked hard. And then, ironically, how I ended up at Jefferson. So I did that, like I said, for about 10 years. And at Jefferson, I came to Jefferson because somebody that worked for me that I hired when I worked for the marketing research firm, she came to me the day that she left. She worked for me for 4 years, Sandra, of course. And she said, "You're the best boss I've ever had." And I thought that she was just blowing steam up, because, she's leaving, and of course she's going to say that to me. And then when she went on to her next job and they didn't have a boss, she said, "I want you to come be my boss again." And so, again, to me, relationships is everything, but they're not in the way that we always expect them to be. And so that's why it's extremely important that, we cherish the people, and that's what I lead with. My team is extremely important to me, and all of the things that, Aunyéa mentioned, they wouldn't be possible without my team, so that's how I got where I am.
Best boss ever.
Yeah.
She's got her support system here. She's really the best boss. Look at this.
Well, I gave a little bit of insight into my humble advertising start, but to be perfectly honest, I left college and I really was not sure how to take a film degree and use it in a way that I could actually earn money. I felt like, I had a great handle of like the craft, the art, no idea how to make money off of that, especially when you're headed back to your hometown of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Yeah, so I hustled. I did probably as well as I could in Wilkes-Barre with a job at the General Cinema, managing a theater, and hustling part-time at the public TV station. And, I think everybody having, I think that kind of humble, strange, confused beginning is something that most people have and not a lot of people talk about. It's one of the reasons why when I sat down to write the book, that's why I focused it at kind of high achieving people who are coming out with all of this knowledge, all of this passion, and not knowing how the hell to get a job. So that's why I focused on that project, because it was really like a personal passion of mine. But it's interesting, like listening to everybody up here starting to kind of describe their beginning. There is a common thread here. We come out, we think there should be this ladder, right? You think there's a ladder, but that's really a myth. And that all of the experience that you're going to gain, you're going to find ways that you end up using in ways that you could never imagine. So I really don't regret any of those strange, weird, humble beginnings that I had, because I learned things along the way, even if it were like the kind of boss I didn't want to be. And they've made me who I was, or am. So.
Did it again, didn't you? Mm-hmm.
After you.
We're close. I think I came out of the womb selling. I think I did. I really do. I'm telling you. I was in sales by the time I was. My parents signed for me to get a job, just for me to shut up and go somewhere and make some money. So I was in sales at 15, and by 16 I was selling men's clothing. Hilarious. I don't even know the name of the place. But I learned that little word commission, and it was on and popping. What? You mean I could control my income based on how much I sell? Oh, that was it. That's all I needed to know. I'm going to sell the most in here, and trust me, I topped those sales within the first 30 days. All I needed to know was I could make more. You were going to stop me at this hourly pitiful rate because it was terrible. The average hourly rate was horrible. And I just need to know that word commission. You guys know that commission, right? But it was, to me, it was that incentive. Then you're not limiting me. And I fell in love with sales. I was blessed with an opportunity to, I was hired by a gentleman that I actually still talk to this day who lives in Florida, multimillionaire now. Darn, I should have stuck with him. No. No, not like that. Not stuck with him like that. But in business, y'all. Come on. But after I came back, lived overseas. I was living in Italy, and I came back to the United States alone. My parents were in the military, and they were deciding to stay there. And I did my stint. I went to high school in Belgium. I'm like, I am so tired of Europe. I know that sounds terrible. When you're a teenager, you just want McDonald's. You want like Wawa. You want that typical life, and I couldn't get that in Europe. Came back to the U.S., and I needed a job. I needed to work. Started college. Marketing, of course, right? Sales, that's close enough. And I dropped out because commission was across the street at the mall at the Limited. I am not joking. And again, I was excited the fact that I could make more money as long as I could get commission. There was that word again that was pulling me. And by the time I got into that, I fell in love with another aspect of it, talking to people. I love people, and I love backstories, and I just get to know people. And I said, well, this is going to work. I can make money at talking to people and selling all at the same time. This is what I want to do. And by the time I was 19, I was fortunate enough by that gentleman I was talking about that he hired me without the degree, because he met me and he said, you got something, and I'm gonna give you a chance. But I had to start off as an assistant, but I was terrible because I couldn't type. And he, within 30 days, was like, no, you need to get on the road, you need to start selling. I was selling computers. And I know this is hilarious because I'm sure some of you are young enough to know that computers back in the 80s and the 90s, because that's how far back this goes, it was not like today. I mean, a CPU, no lie, was $25,000. $25,000 for a computer. Nowadays, it's like you can get a laptop for $300. So obviously it was a really big sale for us. And long story short, very, very fortunate, very blessed to have that opportunity because it pushed me in the field. By the time I was 21, I was working for this company, and again in sales, which turned into that marketing piece too, promoting it, selling it, and delivering it. And found myself as at the time, very young black female in a very predominantly white male environment working for an ad agency, and most of the clients were looking at like, what does this young girl know about advertising? But my ability to connect with them and have the customer service aspect really showed me that I didn't need to know everything as long as I surrounded myself with a really good technical team, and kind of saw that I could marry the two. And as long as I had enough personality and enough, umph and push, y'all like that, right? As long as I had enough push behind me to get out there and be the person that I wanted them to see and wanted to be, then by the time I was probably 25 years old, I was very successful in that, making excellent money in it, and realized I needed to go back to school. And I said, well, what am I naturally good at? And it was sales and marketing. And it was an easy transfer for me. And having sold, and I literally have sold dolls at like Busch Garden, like I really have. And to look back on that and say, if that's it, and if this is what marketing and advertising really is, and I think I'm gonna like this. And just knew that I had to go back to school to get the education to kind of seal the deal and add some validity to what I do. And I learned a lot through that process, and even still learning, as you talk about, constantly learning even now. I know for sure that it picked me, because I was selling my parents on why I needed a new pair of sneakers when I already had some. So I knew I had the knack, but I also knew that there had to be a combination of knowledge and pulling that experience, and I talked about before, my past experience, and something that you know that you're good at and you would enjoy to do every day, and kind of blended the two together. So, from selling upsizing the fries at McDonald's driveway, I was pretty good on that microphone, I'm gonna tell you. I was. That driveway microphone, I was good at that. To getting into advertising and selling corporate, and now for a HBCU, 127-year HBCU, it's been an amazing career, and I think that you guys are certainly in the right place, and have fun with it, because clearly you can go from burgers to Philly, right? Philly Ad Club. Thank you.
Well, I guess the beginning of my career and maybe the rest of it is a testimony to having no plan and the power of luck, sheer dumb luck, which probably isn't the official answer, right? But that's for all of you out there who don't have a plan, it's probably fine. And also, I mean, sometimes I failed into my own success. So I was lucky in Singapore to get an internship at our national newspaper, which was a big deal between high school and starting university. And I quit after one day. I just couldn't do it. I'm an introvert. She doesn't believe me, but I swear, especially at 17 or 18, I went home in tears to my parents. I said, I have to call strangers on the phone and ask them questions. So like, unlike you, that was not my strength. So then I went to Yale. I have an English major too, and I was going to be a book editor. I love to read. I still love to read. I was all set up. I was going to be in the book business. I interned between junior and senior year, and it was terrible. I hated it. It was so boring. The book list was like 5 years out. I said, you mean I have to read this giant slush pile of manuscripts, pick one out, and wait 7 years for it to be published? I'll be dead by then. What are you people talking about? So that plan went nowhere. And I networked my way randomly into this ad agency job because my college roommate's dad was a lawyer in New York, happened to know the CEO of this agency, and sent my resume with a nice cover letter to this agency. And I remember when I went in to interview that day, and I was waiting, right? I was like 22, and the person interviewing me was the head of the P&G account, who doesn't normally interview like college kids, but because it comes through the CEO. And he was a little late, understandably, Neil Kreisberg, great guy. And the receptionist kept calling his secretary and like harassing the secretary. And I was like, I'm fine. I can totally wait here. It's totally fine. And finally, she said to the secretary, she's a Meyer referral. And Meyer was our CEO. And so I had no idea the power of that, right? And so when I got there, and then I realized, we would have other Meyer referrals come in, and it'd be like sort of humoring at Meyer, right? Like, oh, he's sending like his friends' kids to us. Oh my God! And I was one of those friends' kids, and so that's how I got. So that's how I got my start. But the other part of the story is my very first HR person, in the mid-1990s, a long time ago, like 15 years later, had gone on with her career, and I hadn't talked to her in a long time. And she recruited me out of Gray, where I'd been for a long time, to become the president of a media agency in New York. It was a huge step up for me. I probably jumped like 3 or 4 steps from a title standpoint. I really improved my income. I really improved my visibility. And this woman remembered me from my very early career. And again, sheer dumb luck, right? So sometimes, the best plan is to just nurture your network, do a good job, be the right kind of person. And so for all of you who don't have this wonderful methodical plan, it's probably fine.
Wow. Thank you guys for sharing how you got your start in the industry. You all are so successful, but you have different paths of how you got there, and you have different paths within your own story of how you got to where you are today. And so what I gathered from that is you have to have the passion, right? Mm-hmm. The desire to learn, the desire to connect with people, but also be a good person, because networking is key, and you never want to burn any bridges, okay? But with all of that being said, we would like to open up the line of questioning to you guys, the audience. So please, if you have a question, raise your hand. Feel free to stand up, introduce yourself, and let us know what your question is.
He stood up. He was serious.
And I just have to, can we just shout out the few men who are in the room? Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you for being here, and thank you for knowing the importance of women in advertising and working with women in advertising. So with that being said, go ahead.
One question. When it comes to marketing and advertising, you have to blend doing your job and the moral or morality of that. How do you balance selling and your morals when it comes to doing it? Because you have to do your job, but do you believe in that product enough to do your job? How do you balance that? That's the biggest thing I know is in marketing. How do you balance that?
That's a great question. Who would like to answer that question?
I would take that. There's a reason why. I never set out to work in healthcare marketing. I never would have imagined that. But I've spent my career in it. And one of the reasons I believe that I mean, there's many reasons, but one of the reasons why I really stuck into the healthcare mode is I truly believe that the things that we're doing are helping patients or caregivers in a really tough time. So I mean, our mantra, literally our mantra for a company is helping, not selling. And so we're not out there to peddle drugs. We're there to help people in probably a really vulnerable time of their life. And so for me, it's been easy because I feel like I really believe in the kind of value that we're bringing.
Get my mic to work here. I would say that I definitely draw the line. I will. And I will walk away. I have to believe in what I'm selling. I really do. And, you know, if I believe that there's something, I have to answer for my actions, okay? At the end of the day, I have to answer for that. And I will not make up a story just for the sake of hitting the numbers. But if you really believe in it and you're in the right place, you're going to be able to know that you're doing something good for not only your job responsibility, that it does serve a purpose. And I know that a lot of us talked about that service. I just happen to be in higher education right now, and it's not hard for me because I know that it does benefit our young students. Our HBCU, although a predominantly African American environment, we are quite diverse, but I believe in that product. But there have been times where, you know, if they said, well, let's sell this particular one, you're not ready. And I know you're not ready because you don't have the full program laid out. So I'm not willing to promote that until you get it ready, because I know when I market it, it will work and people will come. But if you're not ready, then we need to just wait. So in the balance of still keeping my job, if you will, but also conveying to them this is not the right time, because when we do this, we will get a good response, because I believe in the way that we promote the programs. But I also have to sell back to them, and I do sell to them. It's better that we wait 6 months. Let's test this out in the market first. And that way, I'm not saying no, but I'm saying just wait. And it keeps me responsible that I'm doing the right thing, but it also keeps them responsible that you're not pushing yourself too far ahead of things and being too early in the process. Because you're excited about it doesn't mean it's the right time. And I think that gives you, again, adds some value that you're willing to say that and to push it back to them and say, yeah, I can market it, because I swear I've had people walk up to me in the hallway, can you market it? And I'll say, market what? I know, have you had that? We need to market this. And I said, well, what is this? First of all, who's the audience? And what is this? Because if you can't tell me, then I can't sell it. Because if you can't explain it, I certainly can't. And that's a way of kind of putting it back on them and also keeping me in check too, because I got to answer for that personally, spiritually too. Honestly, that's just the way I have to live my life right with that. And at the end of the day, I put that out there. There better be something in return for that particular consumer.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I think that authenticity is extremely important. And not only is it important, but it can be sniffed out like in a second. So if you're not leading with how you truly feel inside, like, people are going to know that. And there have been times in my career, and I'm sure that you'll come across it, where you have to ask yourself a hard question and be willing to say no, or be willing to stand up and say that this doesn't feel right to my core. And what I've found is that is extremely respected. So when you just try to go with the flow and you say, oh, well, they asked me to do this, if it's not resonating deep down inside, then everybody is going to know that.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions? Yes, stand up and tell us your name and tell us your question.
Hi everyone, my name is Allison Schwartz. First off, thank you all for being here today. You guys were all incredibly influential, and I really appreciate it. So my question is, I heard a lot today, everyone touched on it, is innovation. And we all know we live in a very fast-paced media world, but there's still a lot of people with that traditional mindset that don't want to change. Now, my question to you guys is, what is your advice to get those people that have the traditional mindset that don't want to change on board to your innovation and forward-thinking ways?
I can talk to that. I mean, we deal with that all the time. Right. It's like every day, all day. So when I was saying to go talk to people and listen to the heart of what is important to people, that's what I think helps. When you go to someone, you go to a group, we go out a lot and we speak to people and we sit down and we say, what is your concern? What do you want to see? How can we help you? And without that conversation, people are going to constantly continue to put up walls, but you need to make those people become your advocates. And if they're your advocates and it's the person that is the most resistant, then everybody else is going to fall in line.
I was just laughing up here. We probably could write a book about the challenges of quote-unquote selling and innovation. I mean, I would echo what you just said. The other thing that I think is important is the innovation needs to be grounded in marketing fundamentals. I do think the industry sometimes has that disease of new and shiny, go make me a viral video, go get me a drone bot, make an AR something because it's cool. And so for business owners, who have P&L responsibilities and costs, you need to be solving a real consumer or guest problem or some kind of problem, and innovation needs to be, I think, framed in that context. And I have a talk that I do about the balance between marketing fundamentals and marketing innovation. And innovation is just another way of solving those fundamental problems. Don't chase innovation for innovation's sake, because business owners, they're like, you get to go out and talk about this on the circuit. I got a P&L to make. So I do think when you're talking about, remember the empathy of what those people need. And I do think, don't underestimate sometimes the power of personal connection and the trust they have with you. And when I came to Campbell's, and I had some colleagues in the audience, there was a general manager who was legendarily against quote-unquote digital media for all the reasons you know. And, and over time, myself and the head of media, we moved the media spending at Campbell's from something like 8% digital to 39% digital. And people literally come to me at a conference and say, how did you do that? And it wasn't like we didn't have the data. We had the data, we had the test and learn, we had all that structured frameworks, but the general manager, he trusted us in a way that he hadn't trusted other decisions makers before, because we had invested in getting to know his business, invested in getting to know him as a person, and we were able to frame up the solution in a way that was empathetic to him, and not just because I say so and I'm a marketing expert, so. You know who I'm talking about, Monica.
I would say, especially in my environment, that you have to get that buy-in, that great idea, and it's probably an amazing idea, but your audience your first audience is around that round table, because you need them to back you. You need to be able to spend the budget on it, and you need to be able to, your ROI and all those great acronyms that we get sick of hearing, but it's true. We have to give that to them. But in higher ed, data is everything. And one of the best things I've learned in that environment is it translates into what all of you are doing. You can sell them first by backing it up with the data that you're talking about, because it's proven. I mean, how can you argue that, well, here's a couple stories where it did work, or here's the data that shows that this is, and you don't have to do it on a large scale. Do a test on it and then show that. And again, it may not be something that happens overnight, but I would encourage you to work on your plan to sell the group first, because that buy-in is going to be everything for that great innovative piece that you're talking about to make it out the front door, because you've got the naysayers and they are all around you. And it's not, sometimes it's not intentional, it's just that they just don't get it. And I deal with it every day. I have leadership that couldn't text if you paid them. And they're talking about using social media. I'm like, you don't even know how to get on Facebook. Snapchat, honey. It's not Snap crap. It's Snap, like they really don't get it. But yet you're telling me we're not going to do this, but you have no good reason why. You're just afraid of it. So, I just encourage you to sell them first, do some research, and back it up with some data, because data can really save you for those who just don't comprehend it. And make it something that they can understand, and just start small if that's because I will tell you, without that buy-in, it's going to be 10 times harder.
Thank you for that. So we have time for one final question. So who wants to take that on? Anybody? There we go. Tell us your name. Stand up. Tell us your name and what your question is.
Sure. My name is Betsy Oliver Ross. Very impressed with the entire panel, and obviously a great track record. I think all of us might enjoy learning from one or two of you. Obviously, a great record of success here, but what can we learn from you from an experience where you were surprised when something didn't work out, where you had to tap dance a little, or something that surprised you where it didn't go as smoothly as you had planned for? What can we learn?
I'll start with this one. Yeah.
Take the podium.
So who's been to Franklin Square? Raise your hand. That could be more. Okay, so between May 1st and June 30th, the Philadelphia Chinese Lantern Festival comes back for the 4th year in a row. I'm not announcing that till next week, so you all have the scoop, by the way. So the Philadelphia Chinese Lantern Festival came to Franklin Square. This will be the 4th year, so 3 years ago, whatever, do the math. And that's not my strong suit. And it was this incredible thing where 20 artists made by hand 2,000 individual lighted sculptures. And we put up a fence around Franklin Square, and it was free during the day and a ticketed thing at night. And I was in the square with this photographer the night before this opened, and my jaw was on the floor. I mean, it was way more spectacular than I thought it was going to be, and it was this incredible experience. And we go the next night and for the opening, and protesters broke out in the middle of the program. It's shame on you for charging admission to a public park. Now keep in mind, a nonprofit operates this park, and how much money do they get from the city of Philadelphia to operate this 7-acre square in the middle of Old City? 0. So they're a nonprofit. They're going to make a little money on this thing. It's free and open during the day. They were going to be closed that time of year anyway. So it was a shock. It came out of left field, and I froze for about 30 seconds and then moved into action because, of course, the ensuing days, there were 2 reporters in particular who made it their mission to take this thing down, and the CEO was very nervous about it, and I was like, bring it on. Because I knew this was a quality product, and I knew that there were arguments. Some people said, oh, it's too expensive. Heck, it's cheaper than the zoo or the Phillies game or whatever, so forget that. And then they said it was, closing off a public park. Well, it's free during the day. If you can't afford it, that's fine. You can come during the day, but at night, it's this incredible experience. And so every argument they had, and then they said the fence was ugly. Well, yeah, the fence was ugly, so they had us there. But then we made moves to improve the fence, and certainly by year 2, we actually employed a landscape architect to design the fence. So you have to address it. My answer to your question, Betsy, is you have to acknowledge when something goes the way you don't expect. You have to not be afraid to stand up to it, especially when you know you're in the right. I mean, I literally have been doing crisis communications plans with a client this week, just sort of imagining your worst case scenario and having to deal with it and then have an answer for it, right? I was not mayor of New York City when the planes hit the tower. Thank God I don't have to do that, and I'm glad not to be Johnny Doc's PR person this week. But inevitably, in dealing with the challenges, you face them, you deal with the real answers, and then you figure out what the public wants to hear. You can't always give them everything, but you have to address them. You have to deal with it. So that's my advice.
That's great. Yeah, go ahead.
I just felt like I wanted to throw one in because, you know me, I'm just like always trying to find a new lesson to throw in out there. But it doesn't even matter. I'm not even going to go into the details of this project, but we were working on a really let's just say large scale technical project, teams in like 3 or 4 different countries, and we're dealing with like 1 billion clients, but who's in charge? And it was just one of those situations where, was obviously just a smooth sailing project, right? So yeah, when it went off the rails, it was one of those projects where everybody's like, well, I don't know. I talked to this person, and everybody's doing the round circle, like finger pointing situation, which I think is probably pretty common in corporate America. And I remember saying to my boss, well, I was telling them, I remember having this statement. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but I remember saying, well, I was telling them, but they weren't listening to me. And it was one of these things that after the fact, I really took the time, because it could have been really easy for me to walk away from that and go, because, probably 50 other people walked away and I was like, well, that was just a cluster, and, really didn't kind of think about their own role and how they contributed to it. But I thought about it, because I kind of sitting in a chair trying to explain to my boss that people weren't listening to me made me think, how could I have done better? How could I have explained this better? How could I have made those alarm bells come through? How could I have spoken my truth louder? And so I guess that's the one thing I would put, I think it's really easy in this kind of day and age to kind of, sit back when one of these things is happening, because these kind of projects happen all the time, right? Like, it's not just in advertising. But I think those are the moments when it's really important to be the one who's sitting up and speaking up and being that person, being brave enough to speak your truth. And so that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Cari and Michelle, for answering that. Dawn, as Dawn said, these are some bad boss women on this stage. Can we give them a round of applause? Please. Thank you. Well deserved. I mean, literally. Thank you again for sharing your insight, even some of your failures and what led to where you are today. And thank you to all of you for joining the Women in Advertising 2019 event. We hope to see you next year, right? Yes, yes. Final notes, I just have to let you know about 2 more events coming up that you can attend on Thursday, March 7th for the Addy Awards evening celebration, and Thursday, April 25th is their annual Movers and Shakers Honors Luncheon. So those are 2 events to keep on your radar that you can attend, that we want you to attend to continue to connect and network and start and grow your careers. I hope that you all enjoyed this evening. Our panelists are here to answer any other questions that you have if you want to talk to them individually. And be safe in this weather. It's really cold outside, so get home safely. But thank you again for joining us. I'm Aunyéa Lachelle, your moderator. Oh, thank you.